Hello and welcome to Two Arms podcast. Again, we are back once again to discuss parts of history. I'm not wearing this cap because I've gone bald, although I have had a haircut. It's simply because the sun is shining in my eyes and it's blinding and I won't be able to see jack shit. So, hello, I'm joined with George. George, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I finished the shift at 6 in the morning, so all is well.
Good, good. The working man is always good. The working man is always good. So today, for our first topic, we've got Was T.E Lawrence a good man? Followed by a quick advertisement by one of our sponsors, and then we will go on to the worst ancient warriors. So, George, what's your opinion on T.E Lawrence, or should I say Thomas Edward Lawrence?
Oh God, you had to start with me, didn't you?
Yes.
Uh, I'm gonna have a cop-out answer and say he was a complicated man.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
say that's putting it mildly.
yeah, I reckon on the whole he was probably a good man. It's it it depends how you individually want to rate him. Because if you're rating him on is he a bad man because he butchered babies, then no, he's not a bad man as far as I'm aware.
Hmm.
Um, but you've also got was he a bad man because he worked for the British government who did some dodgy shit?
Ye-
Then yes, he could be a bad man in that
yeah.
context.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's not a cop out answer. Lawrence is a very, very complicated individual.
Yeah,
I've been using the internet only to research things like the agreements and deals that were going on behind the scenes. Some of which weren't going on behind the scenes, as I've discovered.
yeah.
But I've been relying on his book, The Seven Pillars of Wisdom, to kind of form more about him. And he starts interesting. He starts sort of as an apology in a weird way for some of the. Oh, by the way, we aren't talking politics. We're just talking about history and facts. We're not agreeing or disagreeing on politics. Just before people jump on.
Though our facts may be wrong because we're not here to
Yeah, we're not. We're no way proper
we're
historians.
not here to scour every single one of our sources to make sure it's 100%. We're just here to look at sources available and come to our own conclusions.
Even Lawrence in his own book admits some of the dates and stuff are off because of stuff that's going on. That's just in the introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, in these, here's a kind of like his kind of take on it. In these pages, the history is not of Arab movement, but of me in it. It is a narrative of daily life, means, happenings, little people. Here, there are no lessons for the world, no disclosure to shock people. It is filled with trivial things, parties that no one makes no mistake for history, and the bones for which someday a man may make history, and partly for the pleasure it gave me to recall the fellowship of the revolt. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, I definitely. uh, I personally have a problem with Lawrence's writing style. I find it really difficult to read. I can't digest the book as quickly as I digest others, hence why I haven't read absolutely schmidt tons of it as I usually would. But I think I've got enough to make a good judge of Lawrence.
Well, a bit like we said before, he was a lot of things. He was an archaeologist, army officer, diplomat, and
Spy.
well, shit. I've been rumbled. I was going to go. He's not a writer. It says he's a writer. Ignore me.
He technically is a writer. He's done several books.
Yeah, but you know,
But I'd say more an author than a writer. But...
yeah.
Oh,
But
actually,
anyway,
Edward a
my point
diarist.
was
Yeah, sorry, Karen.
it was just my point was he's probably just writing to get the facts out rather than writing to
Righting wrongs.
sound poetic.
Mm. But yeah, I must admit, I used to think when I was a kid, especially Lawrence was a really good guy.
Yeah,
Partly thanks to the film Lawrence of Arabia by Peter O'Toole, which is a fantastic film. I can't recommend it high enough. It's a long film, but it's a bloody good film.
yeah,
Um, but some of the stuff in it is wrong, is inherently wrong, and some of the looking back at some of it, I don't think it's nasty to say. I don't think Lawrence was that naive.
I
Arguably,
doubt he was that naive, but you then fall into the thing of what can he do? Because yes, looking at it from a slightly detached, practical point of view,
hmm.
you fall into he was only a colonel by the end of the war, I believe.
In October 18 or
Yeah, I
1918.
was going
Yeah.
to say, for most of what he did, wasn't he a major?
I thought he was a captain.
He may have been a captain. If I'm honest,
I,
First World War, captains and majors do not have that much political power.
unless you're
So
Lawrence.
even if he, hmm?
Unless you're Lawrence, then you get a ridiculous amount of political power.
Well, but surely with his political power and his, I don't know, right? What the thing is, what you basically end up having is he's got political power, but also he doesn't, in that he was quite unpopular at the time for wanting to fight what most of the British command thought was maybe not a pointless war, but not an important war.
Yes, I know the Middle East was certainly one of the high areas that were overlooked by British command during the First World
Yeah,
War.
which is another reason. It part of the reason he could have overlooked, and I found some arguments for this and some arguments against it.
Mm.
But some of the reasons he might have overlooked all of the dodgy dealings going on is because he was, strange to say, for an archaeologist, he was more in the moment.
Yes, I've
He,
noticed that
he
about him.
he's trying to make things better at the time, and if that means possibly ignoring some dodgy dealings in the hopes that he can gain a bit of money from the British command
Mm.
to get someone to bring rifles over for his rebel forces.
He did, in his defence, he did have to play. I, I know people are going to say we're looking at this through British views, and yeah, that is a fair point, and this is going to be biased to say. But he did have to play a bit of a balancing act, I think.
Yeah,
And there was, it's nasty to say, but there was no other way it was going to get done unless he played it just right.
yeah. And you can argue that the way he played it wasn't right, but my response to that would basically be there isn't an alternative.
Yes.
Right, because you can point out an alternative now, but that's with hindsight. That's with what 100 and, for
Well,
argument's sake, 104 years
yeah.
of additional information. You know what's going to happen. You know what did happen. When you're standing there beforehand, you don't really have that luxury. I mean, people have
Yeah.
got issues with him now. Like, so during the research, so many issues I found were people bitching about the fact that he wore sort of, not even he wore, the fact that Peter O'Toole wore sort of blackface in the film, even though that's what they did.
Yeah, I know that skin dyes were used, especially in the Second War when they were fighting in Africa. Spies would use skin dye to try and blend in a bit more into the local
But I mean,
community.
that's the thing. So many people were bitching about that. Not during my research.
Oh
It
yeah,
was,
well,
yeah.
that's
Uh,
people.
You also fall into the thing of he seems to have had the opposite of what uh, Haig got. Haig, up until about the mid 1920s,
Mm.
was the hero that won the First World War for the most part,
Yes.
or won the Western Front.
Mm.
And then something happened, and I can't quite recall what happened, but something happened, and the popular story came from no, Haig was a butcher who led his men against machine guns. It's like there wasn't any other way at the time. Haig was the general people wanted and needed at the time.
Mm.
Whereas what seems to have happened with Lawrence is he was considered a bit of a traitor. He, like we said before, the British government and British military command basically saw him and went, "You're more concerned with these,
With the rights
uh,
of Arabs than the actual.
yeah, than with us winning this war. We don't care if these Arabs are getting screwed over. We care that the Turks are helping
The Jerrys, the Germans. Sorry, the
yeah,
Bosch, the Germans. Yeah.
yeah. This is our concern. Get your attitudes in line." And then sometime it seems to be probably in the 30s, around where he died, um, that people started looking him at more as a bit of a. I go so far as to call it a bit of a folk hero. It was here was this brave man who went and fought this small war.
I think with it's I hate to say it, especially with what's going on at the moment, uh, across especially in America. But I think people kind of saw him as the white savior, which is unfair. I think. Um, for those who
Why?
don't know,
Because he blacked up a few times. Sorry, that
it's
was really bad.
moving on swiftly. Um, no, but for those who don't know, in media, the white savior. Um, it's a media term that's used, which
It's
is
the white man. It's what is
a
it? What's the
white
film?
man
Dances
comes.
with Wolves.
Yeah, a white man comes to a dying culture and tries to help it, and he's the white savior because he's sailed
Um,
to try and save this
uh,
culture.
Slightly more modern view of it is The Last Samurai. Admittedly, it manages to avoid some of the worst parts of the trope in The Last Samurai because he actually embraces the culture. But it can be epitomized by imagine white dude shows up to Africa to help deal with some cultural issue and kills everyone with a machine gun.
Yeah, I think Lawrence suffers from that in real life with the folk hero
I
kind of
think
thing.
I think he suffers from it in the form it was in the 1930s.
Yeah, I definitely think that's fair to say. I mean, the thing that kind of tips me over the edge towards I don't think personally I don't think Lawrence was a good man, but I don't think he was a terrible person either. I think you've got a bit of a cocktail with him. But the thing
Yeah,
that kind of tips me towards kind of the I don't think you're as what's the word I'm trying to think of?
genuine, pure.
You're not as pure as you seem to come across in your book. Again, I don't like Lawrence's style of writing, so I might be wrong. But it's things like Britain had already promised the Arabs independence from the Ottoman Empire in 1915 during the Hussein Macon correspondence,
Yeah,
um, which is great. You know, they're guaranteeing the Arabs correspondence and stuff. And Lawrence would have obviously been aware of that because that would have been part of his mission. Obviously, raising the Arabs to do guerrilla warfare against the Ottoman Empire, who they all hated. It's interesting to point out they all strongly disliked the Ottomans. But
yeah.
then in 1917, the Balfour Declaration on the November 2nd, which promised the Jewish people a homeland in Palestine, I think Lawrence would have been privy to that knowledge, personally.
Well, I suppose the question is, where would he have been when he learnt that knowledge?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Let me try and put this in. So, from my research, it wasn't just Lawrence. It wasn't Lawrence alone going out and doing all this
Oh
with
yeah,
his.
no, I don't think it was, but
There was a large team of them, and if I'm honest, I think at least someone on that team would have known. And
oh no, I'm not saying that he wouldn't have known. I'm just wondering if he had views against it, would he have been in a position where either his voice would have been heard, or if he was heard, anyone would have cared? Because bear in mind, it seems like for the most part, especially the British government during the First World War,
hmm,
just sort of looked at him of, oh, he's that madman in the Middle East doing some stuff for us. But occasionally, it works out all right.
yes, um,
It's we don't really like him because he's got his own views that don't match with ours. But he did blow up that train, and that really fucked.
fuck the Ottomans, yeah, or the Turks.
Mm.
We'll call them. Just for this sake of this conversation, we're going to call them Ottomans, just to create a differential between the times change, because I know there was a lot of political appeal
Yeah,
afterwards, and it's just easy to say Ottomans as well.
but yeah, it's. I think no matter how much political power he would have had, he's running around the desert essentially.
I think
For
yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, for the British government, he's out of sight, out of mind.
Hmm.
He's he could kick up the biggest fuss. He could have threatened to, not that he did. I'm going to make that quite clear, but he could have threatened to bring his little rebel army to the UK and storm Parliament, and nobody would have cared
Yeah.
because he was just that madman in the desert to him. It was some dude completely detached from the situation has basically gone, oh, we need to get people on our side. We need to make people not hate us. So yeah, we will make these double dealings. And again, I'm not sure. I agree with you. He can't have been that naive and that detached to not know about it.
Hmm.
But I just wonder if he would have had the power to do anything about it. Because you've got the power on paper and you got the power in practice. I mean, we know this from tours. It's in theory we've got the power to do anything,
Hmm.
but sometimes we've been overruled by like leaders of groups we're giving tours to just because there is no reason for it. We just get overruled even though we are the tour guides.
I think. I think the other. I think if what was it? I've got to pronounce his name correct, and I again apologise if I get his name wrong. Um, oh, hang on, we've got an error with the stream. Hello, sorry, we're back. We had technical issues.
I think we might still be offline. Oh no, we're
No,
back.
we're
We're
back.
back.
We're back. Hello, everyone. Sorry, there was some technical issues there. Yes, we are back. So going back to what we were saying previously before we were so rudely interrupted.
Yeah, where were we?
Where were we? Right. I think the other problem with the Middle East is the Ottomans controlled the Middle East for such a long time.
Yeah.
A very long time, an exceptional long time, and you've got a huge amount of different cultures in this area. You've got
Yeah.
Syrians, Kurds, Palestinians, Arabs. That's just to name a few. There is a whole melting pot, and I'm not even sure I know all the names. And out of respect, I don't want to say one of the
I was
names
going to
wrong
say,
and
I
upset
definitely
someone.
know. I don't know the name.
I don't want to. I don't want to do anything say anything bad against it. But then
Yeah.
you've got someone such as Abdul the First of Jordan. I hope I've said his name wrong, or Abdul the First bin Al Hussein, um, who kind of worked with the British to try and to win Arab independence. He later on, of course, was assassinated later on.
Yeah.
But he did try his best to try. He was one of the key role players in Arab independence, and I think the problem we had, well, the problem was afterwards, as you were saying before, of people like if Lawrence said, "I'm going to march on London with my hordes," no one would give a shit.
Yeah.
I think
Also, you got to think that how much of the British public actually knew about him at the time?
he was quite well known, I believe. I think he was relatively well known.
Was he, or was he well known in academic circles?
I think personally he was well known as in like the newspaper. Whenever there was a bad news on the Western Front, Lawrence of Arabia blows up railway.
Good point.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
it's quick. It's easy just to grab someone who's doing something great on a different front altogether and just put it on and be like, yeah, it's fine, it's going good, it's going good. Because that's what the news journalists do today. But yeah, going back to my point very, very quickly. I think the problem you have is because of all these cultures and all these people from different backgrounds and stuff. So they've just defeated the Ottomans. They've just defeated the Ottomans. Britain and France and a few other European powers have already carved up the Middle East before.
Yeah.
So they've just won their independence. They haven't had that before. So you're going to get different clashes with different kind of, the different communities clashing against each other. Passive, not in nasty ways, not in horrible ways, but in passive ways, like who, say you're from a different culture from me. I would like some electricity. Oh well, we use this this voltage. You use that kind of thing. That kind of level, not aggressive or anything, or have any like pent up rage or aggression against anything else. But it's that kind of like that mess, and I use that term in a polite way. That kind of huge mess of like, well, okay, we're free. Now what? And then obviously the Brits coming in going, no, ours now. Or France going, no, monsieur, les Suez Canal, mine, oui, bigot. I think that. Thank you, chat, for liking the accent. Yeah, I think that's.
Were you being horrible to people?
I was being horrible to the French. They don't count.
Oh, they don't count.
Exactly. But yeah.
Yeah, it's. Again, I still think a major part of it is over time, like you said, he's become the white saviour.
Yeah.
Again, it's cool. He's the man who blew up a train with a bunch of horses.
He blew up a train with horses. Bedouin riders were known for their good horsemanship.
Yeah.
He also.
I'm just thinking. You look at what the fuck's the game? Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And his involvement in that. And I'm not saying the game is bad. The game's a game. It's what it is.
Yeah, it's for entertainment at the end of the day.
But it's a very, I guess, bland view. Also, yeah, chat, he didn't actually use horses to blow up the train.
Did the horses blow up the train, or were they in the train that blew up?
No.
Okay.
It was more, he was fighting an organised military with a bunch of random rebels whose most advanced mode of transportation was a horse.
Yeah, he basically there was okay. So a bit of
The
background to
horses did
Lawrence.
not go boom.
Suicide horses.
Yeah.
Trojan horse Mark II. Um, no. Um, so there is a railway that ran from Damascus. I did write this down because this is actually really important stuff. I did write this down somewhere. Let me just check my notes very quick. There was basically a railway that ran from Damascus to. I think it was Hejaz. I'm sorry. I'm double checking. I know it looks bad. I'm sorry.
I just did a quick search on my notes. I've got 10 words of railway.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 attacks on railways.
Ah, the Hejaz Railway. Hejaz. I think I said
Yeah.
that right. Narrow gauge railway that ran through Damascus to Minda. It still does now, apparently. It still does now.
Yeah.
But it was an old railway, and basically that railway reached. Believe it reached
It was
Europe.
basically a major supply line.
Oh shit! Whoops.
What have you done?
I clicked the wrong set. Don't worry. It was basically a major
What?
supply line for the Turks, and it was a huge supply line.
Yeah.
And because what at the start of the war, Lawrence was working as a archaeologist, and because he was an
Yeah.
archaeologist, the British government approached him and said, "We notice you're digging some ancient Egyptian crusader stuff near that railway. Do you mind taking a few pictures of the railway and seeing how many trains come through at this time and so on?" And Lawrence just basically went, "Fuck it, sure." So he would write down and then give the information to the British government. And they'd go like, yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then later on, they would task him when he started getting more and more deeper into the circle. He would blow up and attack the railway or stations.
Yeah, when he was actually an officer, they weren't asking a
Yeah, they weren't asking
civilian.
a civilian. When he joined the army and they accepted him and posted him over there because of his knowledge
His
of Arab
previous
culture.
experience.
Yeah, his previous experience with Arab cultures and stuff and Bedouins and so on. He basically blew up, attacked the railway. There's a picture on our Instagram of some of his handiwork. He blew up a rail, derailed a train, attacked trains, stole supplies, caused absolute chaos for the Turks, basically.
But it's basically it's the epitome. It's where the whole idea of the small rebel fighting a big superior force came from. Because, like I said, these Ottomans had armored trains. He had, I think, for one attack, I can't remember which one, but I think he had at most 15 people with horses, a couple of rifles, and some explosives. Which I think even the explosives, when they got them, they were like, "This might not actually work on a train.
Yeah,
It's meant to be like land clearing. It might not be like strong enough." And it was just—it's not that they were disorganized, but they were so the equivalent to today would be they were so underfunded.
yeah. Lawrence was kind of just put there as a go on, shut up, just deal with what we got. Here you go.
Yeah, as far as again, didn't he kick up a bit of a fuss, or
Yeah.
wasn't it? They were trying to find a way to combat the Turks, and for about 6 months he kept going. We could use not sorry the Ottomans. We could use the Arabs. We could use the Arabs. I'm good friends with the Arabs, and they kept saying no, no, and then finally they went fine. Go on, go use your Arabs. Shut up. Stop bothering us.
Pretty much, it's because the Arabs led a successful attack on a garrison,
Yeah,
and it was a great victory. It was a huge political victory as well. It showed that the Arabs could stand up to the Ottoman Empire. They're at the time
yeah,
oppressors who they felt they could deal with, and then the Turks brought in planes,
yeah.
and then they were like, oh shit. So they sent Lawrence along to help, and Lawrence did a very good job in trying to organising them and making them better, and being more effective, at least to the British war effort.
I
Or
was going to say
the Allied war effort, should I say?
from even though it's an Allied war effort, from a British point of view, it's sort of a win-win. You've got. I know you did have British troops in on that front, but you're basically committing, even if he had a large team of people with him, at most, what, 30 people?
Yeah, I'd say at
You're
most.
Yeah, you're committing 30 people to basically fuck with the enemy in a
Mm.
way that helps you, where if you were to deploy all of your own men, you'd have to deploy at least a regiment of a minimum 1,000 people.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to pay the rebels. You don't have to feed the rebels, or at least you don't have to feed them in that sense of you don't have to sit there and go, "Oh my God, how are we going to get several thousand tin peaches?"
Yeah. Plus, they're
There,
used to the heat.
yeah,
They're used to the conditions in the desert, whereas
and it
whereas our pasty bodies aren't.
yeah. Again, it's basically from a British point of view, it's okay. We shut Lawrence,
We shut this troublesome officer up.
we shut him up. He's happy doing this. He's actually doing some decent work. We're getting some stuff out of it, and we don't have to waste troops. And again, this is why I sort of believe he might have not. He probably knew about all the dodgy stuff going on, but he's got no say because he was essentially banished.
Hmm.
It was go play in the desert and stop bothering us. It's like, when you're a kid and your mum goes, go play outside, I'm having a nap.
Yeah. Yeah, there's cases of that in the First World War, which we'll talk about in a few other episodes. For example, armored car, the British armored car division, and the Belgium
Yeah.
armored car division, which is a very interesting story, which we'll talk about at another point. One last point about Lawrence before we move on to our sponsor and then our second topic. Um, so, if we're gonna, this is this this is kind of a bit of a controversial bit. Do we think Lawrence of Arabia was homosexual?
No.
I disagree, but go on, give me
What?
your reasons why. The reasons I say that are is because the people who said he isn't were historians who kind of have this looking down on the past as everyone was straight. There is evidence for it. Lawrence talks about having a homosexual encounter with a Turkish officer who's captured him. Um, they deny it. The Turkish historians deny it.
Shit,
Um,
well,
British historians claim it may not have happened because they didn't know that, or he would have led himself to have had a homosexual problem. I think personally he may have been bisexual because in one of his poems, his writings, he mentions one of his archaeologists he spent time for, and if I can just find the bit I can kind of bring up to talk about it. 1 second. Um, I loved you, so I drew these tides of men into my hands and wrote my will across the scars in the sky. To earn you freedom, the seven pillars pillared Worth House, that your eyes may be shine for me when we came. Uh, this is to S.A., who is believed to have been his personal friend during uh, the war. Um,
I am of the mind that, and I can't remember where I read it.
Hang on, chat's just come up as I feel like you can't force yourself to be homosexual. The evidence of the Turks were he was raped by a Turkish officer. Oh, that's the story. There's been evidence that it didn't happen, and there's been evidence it did happen. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I've seen evidence for both sides. However, he had even people at the time he had a very strange kind of way around men.
However, my counter to that is that he may have been. Oh God, please let me get this one right. Asexual.
Yes.
He wasn't really interested in sex. at all. It wasn't something that really came up. And to the post-Victorian era,
Yeah,
that
true.
might as well have been homosexual. I came across one theory of his supposedly being raped by a Turkish officer.
Yes.
Could have literally been because he was sort of spy. It's
Yeah, he had a
you,
huge bounty put on his head. That is very true.
you get into the whole thing of, was he a spy? He's technically an officer. An officer in theory can't. Anyway, he might have stuck his fingers up his bum to see if he had a weapon, because that was not, you know,
Sorry, I was
common.
trying not to laugh at that.
Yeah, I was trying to not be offensive, and it sounded really weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's just, it could literally be that was the case, and then you get someone heard he had something up his bum. Someone heard that it was a Turkish officer.
Full cavity search per se, possibly.
Yeah, basically, it could have
Yeah.
been, and it's literally just. And my whole thing is there is such little solid evidence.
Holy crap, chat. We can't repeat that in chat. Sorry, that took me off guard. That took me off guard.
All I'm
sorry.
going to say is you might need to check the apps on your uncle's phone.
Cut the stream, cut the stream. Right, anyway, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon he's. Right, you also fall into some random. Oh, is it some random dude? I don't have that book. I can't read. Well, someone turns around. And says he might have been a masochist.
Right.
Because he describes a beating given to him as. I believe this is a quote from his book. I'm not 100% sure because the article I'm reading on it.
Does it say? Does it give like a page number or anything?
Knightley and Simpson, 1970, page 221. But I don't know.
221.
But I don't know what exactly that is. But it's basically, apparently, he describes. There is considerable evidence that Lawrence was a masochist. He wrote in his description of the Dara beatings that a deliciously warm, probably sexual, a delicious warmth, probably sexual, was swelling through me, which is dodgy. Well,
Yeah.
not dodgy. He can be into what he wants to be in, but
Like I
it's
say,
more.
we're all human at the end of the day.
I don't know. It's dodgy in that language was just
That's why
weird.
that's the problem I have with Lawrence's book. The language just it's not
Yeah.
language I'm familiar with, so I find it very hard to read and digest. Plus, with my dyslexia, it's an absolute fucking nightmare.
I was going to say, you also fall into the problem. He was a well-travelled academic who fucking he's a well-travelled, semi-aristocratic academic.
Mm.
It's full of these are the people who would have had classes on, and here's how you write poetry to woo a woman.
Yeah, it's from those kind of days.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's not hinted at that. It's more just they seem to have a lot less instances of writing something and go, oh, I probably shouldn't say that. Sounds a bit weird. They probably
Yeah.
went. They probably went. This is the best way I can describe it, so this is what I shall write.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not denying or confirming anything. It's my personal belief he was probably asexual. He probably didn't really care about
I
who he slept with, or even if he slept with someone.
I personally
That's
think.
not to say who he loves,
Hmm.
but I've got no real evidence to support that.
From the evidence I've seen, again, Lawrence is such a weird character. Sorry, strange character because there's so many ifs, buts, theories, and all this about
Yeah.
him. I personally think he was bisexual. That's again, I can't confirm it with 100%. That's just my personal opinion. If someone asked me, "What's your opinion?" I think he was bisexual.
Possible. I mean, yeah.
Bisexual, but not aromic. You're saying, says chat.
What? Who? What? Where?
Uh, Asexual, but not
Yes.
a romantic. Sorry,
Possible.
aromantic. Sorry.
Right. I'm saying it's a possibility because history seems to be really big on his sex life and don't seem to give a shit on actual romance in his life.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It seems to be assumed that if he's one, he must be the other, but if he's asexual, I can't see any information to say that he didn't have. But this is where the thing. This is why his poem might make a bit more sense if he was asexual,
Hmm. True.
because it might just be a general sort of.
Bitter Brit, I have to agree with that. In some terms, sometimes yes, I have to agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, history has a very heterosexual bias, but it also doesn't. In
It depends on
in
when
the
what it
sense
is about.
that a lot of it seems to be assumptions. It's the best way I can point out is as a scout leader, Baden Powell, who was around the same time as Lawrence, has this reputation for being gay, and it was just sort of like there is very weird evidence for it.
Hmm.
There is, oh, he was really close with men, and it's sort of like, okay, this is from a period where in the army you would all shower naked together,
Hmm.
and I mean, it still happens in gyms and stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to move it on now because we've talked about this a lot and time's pressing on. So,
Enough gay shit.
I mean, yes, sure. That's one way of putting it. We're just going to have a quick word from our sponsor. So, George, if you want to grab a drink, now's your time while I talk about the sponsor. If not, hang around.
I would, but I'll finish my.
Fair enough. This episode of Two Arms Podcast was brought to you by Beats to Battlefield. Beats to Battlefield is an absolutely fantastic tour group. Me and George have both worked for this tour group before. They're absolutely amazing. They give battlefield tours to scouts, police cadets, and many other youth organisations.
And we're more than happy to give them to adults.
And they give them to adult leaders as well. Very good points. Thank you for replying to me. They offer them on the Western Front, so you see places such as the Ypres Salient, the
Deep salient, the Somme, and we're happy to do them anywhere if there's enough interest.
They also do tours for Auschwitz in Poland, if you're interested. If you are a youth leader and you're looking for something to do once you get out of lockdown next year, please go to Facebook, Beats to Battlefield, or email and chat to the people there. Thank you very much.
Even if you're not a youth leader and you're just a group of people interested in military history, we're more than happy to take you.
Yeah, you get to hang out with us, which can
You
be a
don't
mixed
have
blessing. But yes, please do have a look at them. And thank you very much to Beats for Battlefields for supporting us with our podcast. Right, so the second topic, the more loose topic for the week, is the worst ancient warriors. So
Even though I might have broken the rules on that.
yes, other George may have broken the rules on it. Chat, feel free to dip in for this one. The more crazy this gets, the more fun it's going to be for all of us.
Please
So
don't bully me.
so yeah, Ancient Warriors, the worst Ancient Warriors, because we always hear about like the best Ancient Warriors. You know, we hear like
The worst is in general, not
general
really
like
any specific thing, but just a general worse if it can be argued.
worse for different reasons. So like yeah, you'll see what we mean when we start talking. I think if there's any confusion, say so in chat.
It's less worse as in who are bad. Um, I can't think of any Greek ones, but I'm sure there are a bunch of dumb Greek shit where they ran into lions and all got murdered. But more as in
Athenians, sorry, sorry, very subtle.
um, those groups that had a reputation of being great warriors probably was not as deserved.
For me, that's Vikings. I'll
Yeah.
straight out say it's the Vikings for me. I think that they are some of the worst ancient warriors. And because everyone seems to say, oh, berserkers, you know, these shield biting, come on, come on. It's like, yeah, it just means champion fighter. And with all due respect, Vikings, going on a Viking was a raid to go loot and steal shit.
Yeah, it's basically
It wasn't like a fucking, yeah.
Vikings weren't a real military. They're literally just dudes who went, I have armor, I have axe. That man does not have armor and does not have axe. That man has shit. I will go get that shit.
Yeah, they're basically football hooligans.
Yeah, and they possibly would have been decent in a fight, but yeah, in a very.
I mean,
There's no real evidence for it because there's no real evidence that they ever went toe to toe with a knight of the period.
there kind of is evidence, though. Sorry to be that
Oh,
asshole.
I mean, you know what I mean. There's no real like when you got the strategy games.
Oh yeah,
of,
like pirates, knights, and Vikings. Or
yeah,
what was it? Knights, samurai, and Vikings.
Yeah, it's not a strategy game where you can sit there and go, oh, well, all of my Vikings have this armor and this weapon, and all of my knights have this armor and this weapon.
Yeah, it's. Yeah,
Which seems to be a way this sort of ancient history and these ancient warriors are looked.
I mean, all right. If you're attacking peasants and you're going to steal and like loot monasteries, what's going to be more deadly? You with an axe, or the Vikings? The Danes are coming! Oh God!
Yeah,
You know, which one's going to work more in your favour?
this is the thing. Vikings, using the general term Viking to mean, I forget where they're from.
Scandinavia. They came from
Sure.
everywhere, basically.
I want to point out, I knew where they were from, but do you ever have that moment where you accidentally called the Netherlands Dutchland?
I've never had that problem, but each their own.
Well, I know a few people. I've had somebody I know.
Thank you to Eddie.
They didn't submit the essay, but I've had somebody I know put Dutchland in an essay because they forgot the words the Netherlands.
Peasants have idiot strength. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, Vikings have half decent armor. This is the thing. It's
No, they didn't though.
Against a peasant.
It's chainmail.
Yeah, it's
chainmail
still
and
better.
thick cloth.
It's still better than nothing.
I know it's better than nothing, but it's like, oh, every Viking had swords. No, they fucking didn't. They used tools as weapons. They had a helmet. Shut up, chat. No, they didn't have. They did have helmets, but they didn't have spikes on them.
Right. Basically, the Vikings were just Scandinavians who decided to fuck off and fight people. Just because they happen to have some interesting Scandinavian things like, can't remember the name of it, the steel that's basically the Japanese multi-folded steel that the Vikings have been using for about 2 decades. Like in
Oh, like
Scandinavia.
the jelly roll things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Scandinavians had been using for about 2 centuries before the Japanese.
Viking clothes were made from wool, linen, and animal skins. The Vikings were skilled
Right,
weavers and made their own clothes.
This is the thing, chat. Viking should just be replaced with Scandinavian.
That's clothing. Ignore me.
But this is the thing. In this sense, Vikings should just be replaced with Scandinavian.
Or Danes, as they were historically known as at the time.
Because it's like we said, Viking is literally it's those dudes who
doing an
fucked
action.
off to go fight people.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It's
They're
not
not an
a
organised
collective
force.
group of people. Yeah. They're not
Yeah.
an organised group of people. Go on then. What's your worst warrior then?
Oh, like I said, I broke the rules. I forgot the ancient part of history when I was doing my research.
Go on.
Oh,
that fucking ice cream. Hang on.
George has to shut up because the ice cream man.
Oh, chat. SEAL Team 6.
No, thanks. Not SEAL Team 6.
SEAL Team 6 in the ice cream truck.
It's SEAL Team 17. No. Hang on, let's wait for the ice cream man to leave.
Okay, there we go.
Is he gone?
For now, yes. Sorry about that. I forgot it's nearly 8 o'clock.
Chose. I'm going to get so much hate for this. And I slightly hate myself for this because I'm a big fan of Sharp.
No, not the rifles.
Yeah,
not Hagman.
The Napoleonic Rifle Regiments. Because essentially, what I've found during my research is they were basic infantry who got to wear snazzy green jackets, had slightly more accurate weapons because they had rifling in, and had an ego problem, which is best epitomised by there is a scene in Sharp where his rifle unit are attached to a regular infantry unit. Sharp basically has a go saying, "My rifles do not dig trenches," and it's like, your infantry shut up and dig. Oh, but they're rifles. They're trained to kill. Yeah, so's most people. So are most infantry. Stop pretending that you're better just because you got a slightly more expensive gun because you were slightly better at shooting people.
I prefer voltages.
Shut up.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd say I don't. I must be honest, that period of history does not interest me that much.
I mean, it's more... With the rifles, it's not exactly... I think they're bad. But it's so many people who want to do Napoleonic reenacting instantly gravitate to the rifles and view them as some elite force. And it's sort of like, no, you're just infantry, but slightly different.
I mean, again, we haven't done research on this. My gun's better than yours, Dab, definitely. Doesn't it come down to like, because if we're talking about elite forces in the Napoleonic era, wouldn't that come under like the Connaught Rangers and stuff like that?
No, this is the thing I found. They're literally just they're just other types of unit with a reputation. It's basically I can't find any difference between a soldier of, say, the 64th Foot, which would have been the Middlesex Regiment. It was just a bog standard line infantry regiment, and the Connaught Rangers. There is no difference really between what they would have done and what they can do.
So what I'm hearing is you don't like Sharp.
Oh, shut up.
What I'm hearing is Richard Sharp wasn't a real person who didn't fight at the Battle of Waterloo, who didn't kill a prince, who didn't kill the Aztecs, who didn't murder off the last surviving Spanish.
I'm about 80% sure he didn't kill the Aztecs anyway in the books. I'm sure that episode's made up. But
You
it's
say,
more.
and more impressively, Sean Bean doesn't die. He nearly dies a lot, but he doesn't die.
Yeah, but he doesn't die in The Martian either. Get wrecked.
Spoilers.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's basically they've just got this reputation as elite infantry, and it's like, no, you just refuse to dig trenches. That doesn't mean you're elite.
Yeah, but
Sit there and again in the show, Sharp basically goes, "I'm a rifle officer. I shouldn't be doing baggage." It's like, yeah, some rifle officer has to do baggage,
true.
so shut up and do it.
But that's a
And stop
TV
being big
program.
baby. Yeah, but it's more the fact that it's a perfect epitome. Because to be fair, Sharp's very well researched.
True, you have scenes like at Badahoff.
Yeah, and it's basically, I am sure Bernard Cromwell basically did his research and went, yeah, there were some officers who basically went, I'm rifles, I don't do basic grunt work. And it's like, well, someone's got to.
According to the Geneva Convention, officers don't have to work.
Well, I mean, the point is, he basically complains about being the officer in charge of the baggage train
Yeah.
and claims that rifle officers don't do baggage. But the whole point is there's a whole regiment of rifles. There's got to be an officer who deals with the baggage. So clearly, rifle officers do baggage. You're just up your own arse because you're saying they're going, I've got a green jacket. I'm special. And again, it's dumb shit. It's because I've seen a few cases of it. I think it's in the what was it, Memoirs of Private Harris, who was a rifle soldier, and as a character based on him in Sharp. But he basically writes in his book, every rifle soldier got upset if someone called their sword a bayonet. It's a fucking bayonet. It's
It's a
just
sword
got a slightly.
bayonet. It's a sword bayonet, that's what they're known as.
Yeah, but they basically, someone calls it a bayonet. It's like, it's not a bayonet, it's a sword. Does it go on the end of your rifle? Well, yes, it's a bayonet, then shut up. Stop pretending you're special because your bayonet isn't called a bayonet. See, this is why I
I've just
didn't
got a
go
picture
back
of
and
you now
redo
in a
it.
red coat in front of all these green coats historically. You know, you're like the upper crust, and the guys that come from like the gutter and prison and stuff. Yeah. Now stop pretending you're better than me just because you've got a pointy sword you could use as a bayonet on the end of your bloody Baker rifles. Fuck you.
I mean, yeah, basically that's what it is. It's literally they will stand there and go, I can shoot. I can shoot
Sword
this
net.
distance. Cool. That's not because you're better. That's because you've got a different gun. It's yeah.
I must
Like I
admit,
said, they've got this reputation of elite infantry, and it's like, okay, cool. Still infantry though, aren't you?
I hope you don't meet any green jackets. Oh no,
Wait, do you mean the reenactors, or do you
no,
mean?
I mean both the real life rifles.
Oh, I don't fucking know. Mate, they've been amalgamated so many times. Who the fuck knows?
I didn't want to say that, but yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, yeah, my other like famous like people, everyone seems to be like, yeah, that's so cool, you know, grr, the Asian warrior. It was fucking what was it? It was something really dumb. That's all I could remember.
Oh, I remember what my original one was
Go
for
on,
mine.
go on.
It was going to be Samurai.
Oh, oh dear, oh dear,
Because
oh dear.
you're aware of this. Samurai were the class of people
Yes, they were
in
a high
Japanese
class.
culture. And yes, admittedly,
Sorry, I've just looked at the chat. The first word I see in full caps: Nippon Steel.
it's the fact that I know I praised The Last Samurai a while ago, But it's that thing where in The Last Samurai, it does like the whole reason they basically fight the changing culture is for honor, whereas in reality, it was because in the new system they lost some of their prestige and couldn't kill a peasant for looking at them funny. And it's like it's said in the comments, they're meant for oppressing Japanese peasants. They're meant to samurai basically fight other samurai who are sworn to a different lord, but for the most part, samurai go and fuck with the peasants and make sure they're not stepping out of line. And again, it's that thing of cool, you're a good fighter. You're a bit like the Vikings though, because you're just fighting peasants, and occasionally you have a one-on-one fight with another dude in armor, and that's where your skill comes in. But how often are you having this fight with another dude in armor?
Sorry, I've just got this picture of like there's a break-in in ancient Japan. So it goes. It goes. Tessie said, "Quick! There's someone breaking into the house. Get the local samurai."
Okay, again, this is the thing. It's just
You've just got a samurai standing there in like a tavern during a brawl, going, "I am the law. Break it up now." Or taste
what? He's
the
a
blade.
RoboCop.
RoboCop samurai.
Uh,
I'd pay to see that.
oh shit! No, it's not RoboCop. It's
Robo samurai.
Judge Dredd.
It's just.
It's Judge Dredd.
It's just.
I am the law.
I am the law.
But yeah, it's literally just, oh my god, samurai are amazing, and you then get into it and go, okay, admittedly, they practice a lot. They're actually very skilled, but again,
But
the
how
Last
are they the
Samurai,
worst warriors if they're skilled?
right? Because they're not exactly the worst warriors in that they will basically, they're not going to fall on their own sword.
I mean, seppuku.
They're not going to fall on their own sword accidentally.
Oh, okay, fair enough. They aren't good against anyone other than samurai or peasants.
Yeah, basically, it's the second they still had samurai. Like I said,
They're still samurai
I
around
want
today,
to point out, I'm not basing my whole argument on The Last Samurai, but it's literally just an easy go-to for information.
Chat says, I could fight a samurai, I have a big head, so...
Well,
good luck with that.
It's more the Indiana Jones scene. Dude shows up with his fucking sword, spins it around, and he just shoots him. That's basically how most modern fights with a samurai would go. It's like, hello, I'm a samurai. And, yeah, I've got a gun. Fuck off, bang.
Yeah, it does be like that sometimes. I mean, what was it? I was trying to remember my other one we were talking. I think my other for like worst Asian warrior would have to be pirates. I know they're not Asian again. I'm sorry, but worst warriors from history.
Shit, I didn't realise Indiana Jones before. Do you know he's also friends with Lawrence of Arabia? Got it in!
God damn it. Yes, in the Indiana Jones lore, he is friends with Lawrence of Arabia. But yeah, is it because technically they don't fight? They just play.
Wait,
yeah, kinda, yeah.
Oh right.
That's kind of my point. It's like, pirates, bloodthirsty maniacs. You know, it's like, well, yeah, but.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? They mostly ran from the Navy, and they went and attacked civilian boats.
Do you know the story about the? I can't remember which pirate it was, but they stole cows.
Oh, and they all threw up, and they basically flagged the Navy down and said, "Yes, please arrest
Yeah,
us."
please, but yeah. So,
and the Navy showed up, went, "What the fuck is that smell?" And went, "No, you ain't coming with us. You're staying here. Bye."
yeah. Yeah, that's just yeah. I'll tell the long story quickly for chat for those who haven't heard it. So basically, I can't remember which pirate it was, but they did a raid and they stole a herd of cows, and their idea was they were going to sell them back at a port. So okay, great. So they put the cows in the bow of the ship, in the hull, sorry, of the ship at the bottom. They didn't know cows get seasick badly.
Oh God, 4 stomachs worth of seasick.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
Till just
four stomachs of a seasick cows. Um, so the cows get very seasick. So they start spewing. To the point where it gets really bad that the pirates themselves start
The
spewing.
smell is so bad that all of the pirates
Start
can't.
throwing up. The smell, imagine, yeah. So they go round. I believe they go round. They sail off, and then suddenly they see a naval ship that's on patrol, and they spot them. And instead of running, they just go, no, we surrender. It's too bad. We surrender. The smell is too much. It's too bad. It's so sickening on the ship. We give up. So the navy came over. They boarded and went, we're going to arrest you for being a pirate. And then they inspected the ship and they found these cows spewing and vomiting and doing everything. Oh, thank you. We've got a new follower. Sorry. Spewing and vomiting and throwing up and all this absolutely disgusting stuff. And they basically go, you know something? This ship is so gross. We're not even going to arrest you. You're just going to stay on this ship. Bye.
Yeah, because it was the logic of if we arrest you, we've got to impound your ship, and then it was like, yeah, no, not doing that, no.
Would you not just yeet the cows off at that point? Okay, if you want to yeet a herd of seasick cows off the side of a ship,
Right.
bearing in mind loading one takes hours.
I was going to say, you got to imagine the cows have to be winched out because it's not exactly like there's a lift or steps that a cow can go up and down.
You've got to hand winch them each individual.
So you're going to be winching a cow that is throwing up
everywhere.
Yeah, if you make them stampede,
they're going to sink the boat.
It's not even that. Then you've got a bunch of dead cows to deal with in the bottom of your boat.
Like I said, they got them on a winch. They heard them over, and then they winched them
by using the ramp. No, right. Basically, the boat literally just pulled up to a port, and they stole the cows from a dude's farm and pretended they were theirs.
And loaded them on like nothing was wrong with that.
But the whole point was they couldn't then sell these cows
because they were just throwing
in the port.
Every fucking way.
It wasn't that. They couldn't sell the cows in the port near the place they stole them from, because the dude who owned them might see them and go, "Hang on, those are my cow." So they had to take them to a different port to sell them.
My question about that story, because I love that story because it's just so funny, is like when they finally got all the cows, when like they let the navy left them on, and they're on this boat with just these cows vomiting everywhere. What happened to the cows afterwards? Because like
I don't know, but if I'm honest, at that point I would have basically got in a lifeboat and sunk it.
You just go fuck it.
I mean,
because like how would you return it to the? You just go. You just imagine the Royal Navy going like to the farmer. Hello there. We're just returning your cows. Oh, where have they been? They're in the field. They're not good at the moment. Oh, would you? Oh, good lord! And you just come out, and there's just these cows, head to toe in vomit, just standing there in a field.
But again, this is the whole thing. It's at that point they're literally just going to stand there and go, "There is no point in even." Because this is the thing, like it was said in the comments. If they stampeded, just imagine it. You've then got to go get dead cows out of the bottom of your boat,
and some dead men, most likely,
and blood and guts. Some dude has got to go down there with a bucket. It's not a nice thought.
No, that's got to be one of the worst jobs, is cleaning up cow sick, and from a
And I
herd
don't
of
think it'd
cows.
actually work because it literally be every time you took a bucket full out, you just throw up your own bucket full.
Yeah, yeah. Just stampede up the stairs. Duh.
Do you realise how small stairs are on a boat? Like basically, the way they've got to get them in, open those cargo doors and just have a bit of rope, hopefully tie it
One
around the
cow
cow.
at a time. Hey, but if they're stampeding,
That's
you
the
can't
thing.
do that. Baby
If
cows.
they're sick, you're basically pulling out. You remember Crazy Daisy? Those things you used to plug into like a hose and they just sprayed water around the garden. Imagine that, but as a cow being sick as you're pulling it out of your bum.
They could have used like projectile vomit as like a slipstream to get up the stairs.
You're still assuming they'd fit.
Like what?
Because at that rate,
Why is the cow
because it's the
spinning?
fucking winch. It's literally one bit of rope tied around the middle of the cow. They don't have super duper hydraulics to keep it straight. Then again, some dudes actually still got to go down there and tie the rope around the cow.
I was
So
gonna
that's
say,
right.
I was gonna say, oh Lord, oh, I'm nearly crying.
God.
Fucking hell. Oh, holy cow.
This is your fault.
Oh, we need to do a segment each week now called stupid stories from history.
Mate, that happens anyway.
I like fucking jeez. Oh,
I mean, I like cows when they're between two bits of bread with like barbecue sauce, some cheese, and maybe a bit of bacon.
oh, bacon, yeah. I can agree with that. Let's get a ship full. Lord. Oh. Anyway,
What kind of ship are you gonna get?
big ship.
I've just got images of it being a dinghy. You're sitting there with your herd of cows going, I've not thought this through.
A ding.
No, that's you.
A large one. Hey! Yummy. I'm gonna. Alright, because we seem to be enjoying this, I'm gonna look up for more stupid stories from history.
Can't you just fucking shortcut horrible history?
I would, but I'm sure there's like some adult stories that they can't put on,
Yep.
if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I do like horrible histories, funny stories, but like, yeah.
I do love the fact that Dick Turpin got dobbed in by a postman who taught him to write.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that fact. It's like, how unlucky do you have to be that it's that postman who taught you to write saw your writing and went, hang on, I know this fucking handwriting.
Oh, I'm trying to remember a really, really stupid one. I've got it in my head. I just can't remember what it was called. What the story was. Oh, that was it. So during the Cold War, again, I'm not sure if this is true. I just find this story funny. This was one of the stories I was told when I was a kid. During the Cold War, the United States, just as during the Cuban Missile Crisis, so I think it was JFK. He spilt coffee or something on his jumper, and he sent it to a laundrette with the nuclear launch code still in his pocket. I think it was him or Reagan. It was one of the presidents around that side.
Yeah.
And like they had to. There was a big security crisis over it. Briefly.
Also, I just want to point out, I have got absolute proof that Lawrence of Arabia was friends with Indiana Jones.
Go on.
If you go on Lawrence of Arabia's Wikipedia page, at the bottom in also C, there is the adventures of young Indiana Jones. See, I was right. They're best friends. Prove me wrong, atheist.
I have a slightly funny family story, I suppose I could share, which is quite funny. So during the Second World War, my great uncle and great aunt were married and living together in a house. And one night, the air raid siren starts playing. So right, okay. So my aunt opens the curtains and looks out the window, and it's peaceful and quiet. There's nothing going on because in the Second World War there was false alarms, and obviously having to wake up every night and run down to a shelter, it's not something you'd want to do.
Yeah.
So she opens it. Yes. I don't, and she says to my uncle, so the family story goes, I don't know what they're complaining about. There's nothing there. My great uncle opens the curtains as a firebomb lands a few streets away. And his return to her is, that's because it's all going down on this side of the house, you bloody woman. Quick, to the shelter. And they legged it into the shelter. But it's just, it's peaceful and quiet out this side. Yeah, not this fucking side, though.
It reminds me of a story at uni. The fire alarm in our building went in student accommodation. And basically, you're all getting up. It was about 10 o'clock. You're all getting up and going, right, we're going to go outside. And we see my friend David get up, and he's come out of his room, and we've gone, yeah, David, fire alarm. Come on, mate. He's a bit hungover and very tired because he's American, or he's British but lives in America. His girlfriend's American. So he's gotten pissed and then has proceeded to talk to his girlfriend until about 6 in the morning. And we've all left, and then suddenly we've gone, where's David? David's not here. And we've just gone, oh, maybe he's gone to the shop because, you're outside, you might as well do something. We've gone back in, and he's come out of the toilet. He basically got up and went to the toilet, and we were like, oh, okay, well, I guess it wasn't that important. And it turns out there was an actual fire in the building.
Oh,
but David, you would have died having a shit.
He's going out the way he wanted to go.
Yes, he was very fond of Elvis, that man.
Lord.
So, anything else we want to cover on this episode?
No, we've only got a few minutes left anyway before we head off. So, thank you everyone for who came. Thank you to the new followers, Rin Finil. I think I've said that name right. Thank you very much for following us. Thank you everyone who's following us. Leon, Hatchin, Bernard the Stallion, the Magnificent Stallion. Oh, I think I know who that is. I've got a story to tell them about that actually later.
I was going to say, George, I'm Bernard the Stallion.
Oh, right. You might want to change your name. I'll tell you why later. That dude 2142, Get a Fair Kettle, and Bitter Brother. Thank you very much for viewing us. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You gotta thank you miserable shit. Anyway.
Yeah, great. Call our fucking mod a miserable shit.
You're
Good
right.
plan.
Yeah, uncensored chat from now on. Yeah, there's a delay. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching. Tune in next week. We have the topic of discussion.
Not next week.
No, tune in for the next episode, which will be on our Instagram if you want to know when we're doing stuff. Which will be the topic will be the what? Sorry.
It'll be on the 15th.
The 15th. Awesome. So the 15th of June we'll be back, and it will be the topics will be could America have won the Vietnam War and analysing fictional armies. So thank you very much everyone. Take care. God bless, and see you next time.